this video, I'm going to be taking a look at the left hand for Sandstorm by Eric Branchfield. Sandstorm gives you a lot of options for teaching left hand technique. You don't have to get into all of them, but I guess that just depends on your teaching style. I mean, I don't particularly enjoy using a method book, and my students especially don't like playing shifting exercises from a book. So in my classroom, I like to teach by rote and then apply that to something that they already know. A lot of this music in Sandstorm should probably be played in third position. Now, if you're programming Sandstorm, maybe your students have never played in third position before, or maybe they're just getting used to it. That's fine. You don't need to play in third position at the concert or at your competition or what have you. But maybe after the concert's over or the competition's over, maybe, instead of moving on to new music, take a week or two to teach some spots in third position because they already know it. They know what it sounds like. Now you can give them some third position stuff. So the first thing that we want to do is just start with the technique. Where is third position? So let's look at E on the D string and slide up to G, and then slide back to E. And you want to do this over and over until they get really comfortable. When you're using these teaching companions, don't just play this one and then move on to the next one. They're meant to be isolated and perfected. So don't just play through the whole thing and say, okay, that was kind of dumb. Slow it down, do it right, use some peer-to-peer coaching, treat each one of these like an exercise that needs to be perfect. Now, once they're good at finding the position, now you can start doing some finger patterns, and again, you don't want to start too fast here. Start slowly, make sure they're getting the intonation, and do this again and again, slightly faster each time until they're finding these pitches. If your students are playing in third position, yet their tone is sounding kind of nasally when you would expect the rich characteristic tone, the D string, why is that? Why does that happen? Well, look at the bows. When you shift up, you need to move the bow closer to the bridge to preserve the tone. If your students are playing too close to the fingerboard, you're going to have some tone problems. And when you have tone problems, you're also going to have intonation problems in third position because they can't hear the notes right. So sometimes you might want to ask the question, are we out of tune or are we out of tone? If your tone is bad, it's going to be harder to hear the intonation. So when you shift with both hands. Move the bow closer to the bridge when you shift higher. If you want an example of this, watch my demonstration video on bowing lane changes in Season 5, Episode 8. So that's my recommendation for how to use this piece to teach shifting. And if you don't like method books, it might be more pragmatic and enjoyable for you and your students. But another skill that you can teach is the fourth finger rule. So for violins and violas, the fourth finger rule is don't cross a string just to play an open string and then cross right back for the next note. For example, let's take a look at measure 25. In 25, we have sort of like a trill. A, G, A, G, A. Okay. Are you gonna avoid using fourth finger and do 4 string crossings? You might want to do that as an exercise to teach your students how to string cross and lead with the wrist, but particularly in this context, no, that breaks the fourth finger rule. So your students need to follow that fourth finger rule and use their fourth finger just to play this stuff, or you can play it in third position because it works so beautifully. I mean, let's take a look. I've got 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. It's all the same tetrachord for all of this. It works so perfectly in third position. Chef's kiss, beautiful. But in first position, which is where a lot of groups play this, at least avoid the string crossings by using fourth finger. And really, you want to promote the tone of the fourth finger to the open strings. Now, if your students are having an issue with fourth finger, they don't like the tone, they don't like the pitch, take a look at the left hand. Are they squeezing with the left hand? Or they're not able to put the weight down with the fourth finger because all of their weight's back here, squeezing the violin or viola with the thumb and the side of the index finger. So have them loosen up and so they can get their weight down with their fourth finger. So what does that mean in measure 94? Should you cross to the G string to avoid the D? No, that would be on the extreme end because this is just an eighth note. Now, if it were a half note or a whole note, then that might be a different story, but try to be pragmatic about it. In my last video, we spent a while talking about how to cross strings with the right hand, but what about the left hand? Sometimes your students will try to cross strings with the wrist in the left hand, which is really terrible. And you see this a lot in violas on the A string, and you must put a stop to it. It's going to ruin their intonation and their tone. So you keep the wrist straight, and for a quick string crossing, you tuck your fingers in to play on a higher string. And for a lower string crossing, rotate the shoulder with the elbow in and out. Now, there are a bunch of string crossings in Sandstorm, especially if you're doing all this in first position, so be very mindful of the left-hand technique as well as the bow. In my next video, I'm going to go over the common problems which are associated with Sandstorm, and I hope to see you then.